So, Rick McIntyre, welcome to the captain's table.
Cheers, buddy. It's good to be here.
I love Dubai stories, and I think today, Ted, we're going to hear a good story.
Looking forward to it.
Of a Dubai story of a gentleman who arrived here on a journey and then changed his journey halfway through. So, I'm looking forward to hearing the story.
I did. It's a plan that's gone wrong.
Well, let's not throw the baby straight out yet. Let's start. Rick, where are you from originally?
Mate, I'm off a farm just in provincial New Zealand. I had an upbringing probably similar to you, just out of a place called Wanganui, the mighty W. And
Wanganui's in the North Island, isn't
Wanganui is a small provincial town, 35,000 people, and we lived 15 k's out of Wanganui, just out of a place called Fordell, and my old man was the manager of a 7,000 acre sheep farm, 5,000 acre. She's a big farm. When you're a little kid, it's a massive farm, and our cousin owned the farm, so we weren't landowners. My old man was a worker, and went to a little school, 40 kids, and then when I was about 10, 11 years old, we made the big move into the big smoke and moved into Wanganui.
Right.
And Dad left the farm, he went and worked at another farm, but ended up working in the yards at the freezing works and earning 3 times the pay for half the work. And so, and that's where he ended up in his career.
And then how did it emerge? You obviously went through school, different parts, and then you got into teaching.
Yeah, that's right. So I played a lot of cricket when I was young, and I was no world beater, but I was pretty good. Played a lot of rep cricket and age group stuff. Didn't think I would get 4 Ds in bursary to get into university. Got offered a teacher's college place before I sat the exams and just took it. Quite fancied the holidays. And so jumped into teaching without thinking about it too much. I did get my 4 Ds, by the way. I got a B bursary.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
And so ended up, instead, I could have gone to university and done a university course, probably a BA in humanities, like everyone going to Massey. But ended up going to teachers college and came out of teachers college and after a few months of bit of this and bit of that, fell into a job
in New Zealand.
In New Zealand,
yeah.
Palmerston North. So I worked at Awapuni School, Decile 1 at the time, which is low socioeconomic school. Lots of problems that go with that, and neglect and abuse and all of that. And from day one, loved it. Loved the diamonds and the rough stuff. So some of the kids were magic. Really big sporting ethos, and I became head of PE because I could play a bit of sport and just loved the job, loved it. So we had 5 years in that school, and no one left, no teacher left in that time. It was the staff were really tight, and in tough schools, staff are often like that. And then after 5 years, decided to do my big OE. And
5 years. So you're now 24, 25?
Yeah, 25 years old, yeah.
It's the typical thing of New Zealand, isn't it? You do a few years working and then decide to head over to, well, it was 80s, 90s, head to the UK.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So did what everyone else did, but it could have been a couple of years before that, but I could never get the airfare together because there's a lot of...
well, it was expensive then too, flying to the other side of the world.
It was really expensive, and you had to have 2,000 quid in your account when you arrived. You had to prove that you could support yourself.
Sure.
And we used to just borrow the money and put it in our account, and then all of that, and play those games just to get our ticket in. Yeah. So left Palmerston North, which is 60 k's away from Wanganui, and I hadn't seen much of the world at all, and went straight to Thailand for a month. Holy jeez. So spent a month in Koh Phangan. Couldn't get off because there's one boat off Koh Phangan in the morning about 6:30 a.m. Never made it, so got stuck there for a month. But she was a hell of a month, and then flew to the UK.
Right.
Went to London, and then I immediately went to a supply company and started teaching. Couldn't believe the money that we earned. Never actually worked on Wednesdays. No, Thursdays. Didn't work on Thursdays because on Wednesday nights in Covent Garden at the Outback, or the Walkabout it was called then. No, it was called the Outback originally. It was 2 for 1 Steinlagers. And so we used to have massive nights on Wednesdays, and because I was earning so much money compared to New Zealand dollars, I just gave myself Thursdays off because I was supply teaching, so you didn't have to work. You could turn the work down. When the phone went in the morning at 7 o'clock, you didn't have to answer it. So we didn't answer it on a Thursday, none of us in our flat.
So mid-90s, I'm presuming we're in now.
Yeah.
What's the difference between the average New Zealand student against the average UK student?
Okay, so we were teaching in London. So the obvious answer is the multiculturalism. So we're in little New Zealand, one language school at the time, or two language, dual language, and then we go to London, and I was teaching nationalities I'd never heard of before. I couldn't identify them on a map, sort of, So, and it was amazing. It was amazing. And I taught my whole time in London was in East London, so Newham, Dagenham. Again, kind of the hard end of London, working class, immigrants, and so it was again the diamonds in the rough theme again, and I really like that sort of that teaching, and I like those kids. I think they've got a glint in their eye, and I like that. So I taught 7 years in London and loved it. Eventually stopped supply teaching and got a full-time job because the money. My career got to a point where the money going full time would have been better than the supply teaching, and you get paid in holidays and all that. So did the transition, and then ended up after 5 or 6 years, I was playing cricket for a club in Essex, magnificent club called Havering Ataboa, and I came home after a day of cricket, and my wife Claire had announced. I met Claire, by the way, when I arrived in London after about a month. A Welsh girl.
Claire's from Wales, right?
Yeah, she was teaching as well, and I met her through friends. And look, I knew as soon as I met her, I knew I was going to marry her, which sounds romantic, and it probably is a little bit. But she was one of those girls. I just thought I was blown away by her, and still am, Claire, still am. And so I came home from cricket one day in 1997, beginning of 97, and Claire said, I've applied for 3 jobs. And I went, what? And she said, look, we've applied for a job in Penang.
Right.
I've applied for a job. These are teaching jobs for her and I. I applied for a job at St. Christopher's in Bahrain.
Malaysia, Bahrain.
Yeah, and applied for a job at a school called Jumeirah Primary School in Dubai. And so we got them all.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I know. And so we got offered Bahrain first. We turned it down because it's the first.
And you would be teaching together? As in same school?
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
So look, a teaching package is the holy grail for an employer at the time because they get 2 teachers for the price of 1.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that's a good piece of recruitment for a school. It certainly was at the time. And so we got them all, and we turned Bahrain down, and simply because it was the first job, and we were just a bit nervous about the whole thing. And then St. Christopher's in Penang. At the time, the money didn't add up for us. Sure. And so we came to Dubai. Yeah. Not because I felt I want to come to Dubai. We kind of ended up coming here. It's okay, let's do it.
And this is 2000?
2003.
2003.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so ended up coming here. And
Jumeirah Primary?
Jumeirah Primary School, yeah. Great place. It was a great place. Loved it. Still love it. Still a great school. Started with a group of teachers.
And there's a lot of those still here now, aren't they?
Yeah, look, it started with the head teacher of that school right now. She started on the same day as me. We arrived on the same flight.
Right.
Yeah. And so we're all great friends still.
Sure.
And taught there for 4 years. Yep. It was brilliant. Mm-hmm. But the plan was to go to New Zealand. The plan was to go home. We didn't think we'd do 4 years.
Okay. Right.
We thought we'd do a couple. Like everyone arriving in Dubai. That story, everyone's got the story, right?
There is a similar version, right, Ted?
Yeah. So we thought 18.
Present company.
Look, we thought 18 months. I honestly thought we'd break contract and do a runner. Right. Because the New Zealand school year starts in February.
Right. Okay.
So we thought, well, I've got to run away at Christmas, right? And that doesn't quite work with the school year here. So that was the plan. The first couple of months, I'll give this 18 months.
But without going into numbers, a typical salary here against a typical salary New Zealand, is there a big difference?
At the time, 2003, it would have been triple.
Okay. And no tax.
No tax. You couldn't compare them. It was massive money here at the time.
Sure.
Look, things have changed, and Dubai is expensive, but we couldn't believe the money we're getting.
Sure.
So she was good dosh then.
So you were happy to stay around?
Yeah, man,
right.
absolutely. We loved the place, and immediately liked it. And it was hot and sunny, and we liked that. And there's golf. I play a bit of golf, and this is a golfing mecca.
Yeah.
And then kids came along. And
well, just before we go into that, there may be some people maybe listening from outside of the UAE. If they were to think about getting into teaching now, any words of advice for going to schools here?
Look, there's a hell of a lot of choice here. There's a lot of schools. When I came here, there was 5 or 6 decent schools that you could apply for. Schools pay differently, so that was a bit of a shock. We'd come from the state system where everyone's paid the same.
Sure.
Here, you can shop around. You can negotiate at interview, which is wild, right? That doesn't happen in teaching.
Sure.
Teachers, by nature, the nature of a teacher, it's a funny thing now. I've moved out of teaching, and I think back and think, man, that's crazy. Teachers talk about the package after they get offered the job.
Right.
Whereas in every other industry, you talk about the package, and then you decide whether you're going to go for the job in a way. Unless you're in a senior position and you've got big bargaining power. Right. But you know what you're going into. Often in teaching, you don't quite know what you're going into. So look, there's a ton of schools. Yeah. There's a lot of opportunities.
And there's always a need for teachers.
There's always a need for teachers.
Turnover of staff?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, there are.
More than normal.
Look, a lot of teachers left in the last 18 months. Okay. But schools are filling up again. So we'll get onto that later. But people are coming back to Dubai, and the roles are going up. Sure. There's been a bit of a shift for sure, and schools have got tighter. And overheads have got higher, and the pandemic didn't help that, of course. Right. Okay. So, and some schools are still suffering. Right. But yeah, look, it's a fantastic opportunity if you want to get away and teach expat kids. I mean, the kids are beautiful here. They're just fantastic. We couldn't believe it. Remember, I taught in the East End and Awapuni. I was bored when I first arrived. I couldn't quite believe the kids were just doing what we asked them to do, because we're taught in hard schools, right? Yeah, where they just half your job, 3/4 of your job in East London was behaviour management. Right. Well, here that wasn't part of the game. It certainly wasn't then. Not with the kids that we were teaching. The kids just got on with it, and I couldn't believe it. What? Well, you're really going to do what I've asked you to do, and I don't have to get on your case? And they just did it, and it's like, wow, these kids are fantastic to teach. Right. And that's kind of the case. And I'm generalising, but here, the expat kids in these schools, I'm talking premium schools, but not just premium schools. There's mid-market and so on, and these are terms that GEMS have made up, and it works. Yeah. These kids have got parents that are. Let's generalise. They're in Dubai. They're probably go-getters. Yep. They've moved away from their family. They might be earning decent dosh. They're probably educated. And so that level of really low socioeconomic kids with the problems that are associated with that. And I'm generalising. I don't want anyone to get on my case here, but it doesn't exist here. It didn't exist. Don't get me wrong. It's not all plain sailing, but I just remember talking to other teachers who were new at the time that had come from the UK, going, "Can you believe the kids here?" They were fantastic. Right. Yeah. And so I thought teaching was really easy. Don't get me wrong; it's a difficult job, but teaching in the classroom was easy.
So you did 4 or 5 years, and then you made another move.
Well, okay. So in the meantime, we had 2 kids. Right. Okay, so we had 2 daughters, and one daughter called Josie, who obviously you know.
I know Josie well.
Yeah, everyone does. Yeah. So Josie has Down syndrome, and so that had a whole set of things that go with it that we'll talk about later, I'm sure. But sure. So we were, when that first happened, we were blown away, like everyone, and
well, just to add to it, if anybody doesn't know, I also have a daughter, Ruby, with Down syndrome as well. So we've got a bit of a friendship on that part as well.
And that's how we know each other.
That's how we know each other.
We met each other after a horrific information evening at JPS.
That's correct.
Many in about 2004.
Yeah.
Anyway, so look, Jose has Down syndrome, and so that was. It took a couple of years for me to deal with that, to be honest, and it was, God, we're blessed. We're blessed every day. She's an absolute superstar. And then
14 months later, we had Hattie.
Yep.
So we had these 2 girls, and we thought the right and proper thing to do was to surround them with family. So we moved to New Zealand.
Okay.
Ironically, we saw more of the family when we lived in Dubai than when we moved to New Zealand. Do you know what I mean? And so in New Zealand, we lasted a couple of years, and we actually got an opportunity to come back here, and we jumped at it. We'd also run out of money because money in New Zealand was tight. And we had 2 babies, and we were on 1 income. And I was vice principal of a great school, Te Puke Intermediate. Give that a shout out.
Yep. Kiwi fruit.
Kiwi fruit, kiwi fruit, avocados.
Oh, right,
mate, massive and incredible sport, just unbelievable sporting environment there. Anyway, we'd run out of money as a family. Phone went.
Opportunity.
Phone went by Stuart Dennis, who was the principal of JPS when we were teaching there. And Stuart was setting up a school in Abu Dhabi and said, Rick, would you be interested of me passing your names on to the HR team in London? We're setting something up here. And we went, hell yeah. And I think that week my mother-in-law had paid my mortgage payment on my flat in London. And it's like, yeah, no, this couldn't have come at a better time. We need some money. We've run out of money.
Sure.
So we came back here. It was a decent package. The school didn't last long for us. It wasn't a phenomenal job. And then we ended up moving back up to Dubai.
Okay, so you were in Abu Dhabi. You were
Abu Dhabi for a year.
Abu Dhabi for a year, and then
moved
Dubai.
back up to Dubai.
Sure.
Stuart left, and then we went, and then we came up to Dubai, and I walked into Jess, saw Rob Stoker, who was the director of Jess, and said, I'm after a job. And he said, your timing's great. I'm looking for people right now. And he offered us jobs, and we got jobs immediately. So that was a pretty good day.
So back into teaching.
We came out of senior leadership, went back into middle management. Actually loved it. Saved my career for a few years because I hated senior leadership.
Yeah.
Senior leadership of a school was your head of complaints. Look, it's good for some people.
Yeah.
And some people love it. And some people take a position because they're sick of being managed by someone they think they could do a better job than, and all of that sort of stuff that goes with it. I just didn't like the job. I just dealt with negativity as a senior leader and didn't like it. So I dealt with staff who might have been incompetent or parents who were disgruntled or kids who weren't conforming, and I thought, man, I'm in my office and I don't like my career much at the moment.
Sure.
Went back in a classroom, 3 years at Jess, loved it. I just had 3 magnificent classes of kids. It was cool. I can't say enough about that. My time at Jess, it was great. Yeah.
And then I've got a feeling there's a massive change.
First year teaching in Jess, no thoughts of leaving the career. Second year, maybe. Third year, actively looking. So, and it's nothing.
But actively looking for a new role or out of teaching.
New career.
I'd made
a decision to move on, and I didn't know why. So there's a little bit of push and a little bit of pull. Financially, my family was struggling, and so that's partly to do with Jose. So Josie was just expensive.
Yeah, right.
Bless her. And so to send her to speech therapy, to those associated costs because of she had Down syndrome and those additional needs were expensive. We paid school fees at a great school and then paid more than the school fees for her support worker.
For the support worker.
Man, it was 140,000 dirhams we're paying for our 5-year-old to go to school.
We know that well.
Massive money. And it's like, we had no choice in those days. And then this is before people went into bat for us, and there's a better deal available now for families. But at that time, it was we just had to pay it, or you don't send
you don't go to school. Yeah.
So we were paying that. So I was earning good money, and as a family, we had decent. Like Claire was teaching as well, so we had decent money coming in the house. It was just all going. We were down. In fact, we were going backwards. Yeah. Sure. And so it's like, okay, something's got to change. Okay, and by the way, I'm not liking my career that much anymore. I like the class, I like the kids, but I hate everything else about the education system at the moment. The constant measuring, the assessment, they politicised everything in the education. I believe, it's my opinion, and we were having meetings about meetings and measuring and assessing kids all the time and reporting the assessments, and it's like, man, why can't we just teach these kids? And that's how I felt. I genuinely felt that.
Right. Did you say that in a meeting a few times?
Yeah, it doesn't make you popular with your senior leaders because your senior leaders have hit certain marks, I suppose. But look, I just saw me really disliking the career and becoming more cynical.
Yeah.
I had to move on for myself. And
Yeah.
so I started looking for business opportunities or anything. Got offered a PR job. So I got talking at a party one night to a guy that owns a company, and he said, I'll give you a job. And he said, look, you can talk. And so you just need to talk in this job. It's PR and marketing. You can sell advertising for my publications.
Yep.
And I very nearly took him up on it. I nearly took it up until another party closer to okay, all right, I'm almost ready to pull the trigger. And I said, hey, what's your best guy earn? You know, in this sort of PR and marketing job. And he said, 100,000 a month. That was big money.
Yes.
And still is good money.
Yeah.
Very good money. And so I went, whoa. And then what's the worst guy in that team earn?
Half empty.
You know?
Yeah.
And so he went, 7,000 dirhams a month. And I went,
And they last for 2 months.
well, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
What if I'm not very good at this?
Yeah.
I can't take this on. What if I'm a grafter and I earn 16,000 dirhams a month? I'll be better off staying and teaching.
Sure.
So it's like I just can't take that position. I
Yeah.
can't, I've got my family expenses come to X. I
Yeah.
need that. Otherwise, man, Dubai's not going to work for us.
Yeah,
We'll have to go back to the UK or New Zealand, and then the state will pay for those, and we can go back. But we don't want to.
No.
So then I was moaning about the world, and our nanny, Rosemary, who you know as well,
Yes.
you saw today, walked into the kitchen and said, boss, everyone's moving. and I said, what? And she said, everyone's moving. Now, Rosemary's a special lady. She's worked with our family, with our girls for 10 or 11 years.
Yeah.
And she's more important in the family than me in many ways. And she...
So was this the light bulb moment?
This was it. This is it. Right, wait for this. She walks and so she's part of the Filipino mafia in the Arabian ranches where we lived. She knew everyone.
Right.
Everyone. Whereas we knew the neighbours on the left and a guy across the pool. That was it. But she knew everyone. And so she walked me out onto the street. And we literally lived in a street that went around the pool. So it's kind of almost like a massive roundabout. And she said, look, and she just pointed to everyone and everyone was moving. And that was the light bulb moment. And I thought...
So what year is that?
2013. So this was about...
Why? Why were they all moving?
Rents were going up.
Okay.
Rents were going nuts.
Okay.
So rents went berserk, didn't they? At the beginning of 2013.
They did, yep.
So everyone started moving.
Yeah.
And so Rosemary knew everyone, right? Because she held fort and around the park with the babies. And so she said everyone's moving. And that was the moment where I went back inside and maybe that night or the next night said to Claire, what about a moving company?
Boom.
That was it. And then as soon as you say that, what do you see for the next week? Moving trucks everywhere because you're suddenly Uber aware, right?
Sure.
And it's like, okay, someone's earning money. Someone's earning money. And then it's like, okay, I've moved 5 or 6 times in a city.
Yeah.
We might be able to do this. There's nothing that technical, is there? The last movers we had were pretty rubbish, right? I could at least be as good as that.
Sure. I like eating food. Let's buy a restaurant.
Yeah. No.
Oh, sorry.
No, but almost. Almost.
Yeah,
it was,
right.
and when you told people, hey, look, I'm leaving teaching. I've been teaching for 20 years. I've actually had a pretty good career. I'm actually pretty good at it as well, but I'm leaving to set up. Yeah. And people instantly, I'm setting up a business. People assume education consultancy, tutoring company, something like that. No, removal company. And it's like, okay, that doesn't roll off the tongue. It doesn't. So people immediately, you get people's attention, and they were like, what?
So then the planning process, I presume a lot of whiteboard at home.
Yep, sure.
Looking at pros and cons and
a lot of that, and we went in blind. Right. So what do we have to do to set up? Because I left teaching 1st of July.
And I suppose, did you really have anybody in the business to actually say, what do I need to do here?
Zero. Yeah, exactly. Didn't know anyone that had a company.
Perfect.
Met people that had companies after I set the company up.
Yeah.
So knew nothing.
Yeah.
We watched YouTube videos of how to pack up a house. Brilliant. Many times. And when I hired the guys, I got 4 guys originally, we watched those videos again, and then we bought packaging and we practiced in front of YouTube. I kid you not. And then the very...
So but going back a step, you talked about your team. And I will add, that you still have all of the guys that started on the first day are still with you today?
I got the 4 guys I started with, 4 guys that watched that YouTube video with me. No, 3 of them watched the YouTube video. 1 guy was an ice cream van driver, and we needed a driver, so we got him after. Anyway, so look, 3 of those guys that watched those YouTube videos worked for me today. They're still with me. Brilliant. Okay. In fact, Carlo just called me. He's a supervisor, and so actually they're all supervisors. They're all supervisors. Yeah. So, and that's how it works. But the Martin, the ice cream man driver, is a good story. So we were desperate for a driver. I had no drivers, and it's like, I've just bought a truck, right? I need a driver, and so we were doing our first move 2 days away. We'd booked in a move.
So how long are we from the light bulb moment till the first move?
4 months.
Okay.
Yep. And after about a month, I gave in my notice at school, because you have to give a term's notice,
Sure.
and then you got 3 months to go for it.
Sure.
And so, and then we got a trade license in June. People still say happy anniversary, but we actually didn't do our first move until 2nd of July or 3rd of July.
Mm-hmm.
The first move was me. We moved into El Barsha South from the ranches, because rents, remember, were going nuts.
Yep.
So we moved us. It was a disaster of a move. There's still tape marks on my furniture from that move, and Claire still reminds me. But it was move
the
number
test
1.
case.
There's a bit of humour about that.
Exactly.
It was awful.
Exactly.
And but we watched YouTube, not well enough, obviously. And we packed up our house a couple of times. We practiced, and so I bought a truck.
And so you had this is the team of 4 and yourself. So there's 5 of you.
And my father-in-law.
And
so
your
Claire's
father-in-law.
dad was here.
Cool.
Yeah, Bryn.
Yeah.
And so, and then we moved the house, and it took us to 11 o'clock at night. One truck.
5 guys plus Bryn.
Yeah.
And
about 4 loads. We worked to 11 o'clock at night and didn't unpack a thing. Now, Claire flew out that night with the kids back to the UK for summer.
Yeah.
And so me and Bryn were running the company, and we'd report back. It was an awful first day. It was awful. And then we had our first real fee paying move.
So how were you getting business? Well, the first move, what was that? Word of mouth? Was it?
Word of mouth. It was people first or second removed from school teaching. It was, Mr. Mac sent them coming. And so that's why we named it Macpac, because everyone called me Mr. Mac, and I thought I'll try and make some money off that.
How did you, because obviously there's a lot to do with the pricing, which you now are an expert at. In the early days, how were you pricing it?
Made it up. Okay. So we got 6 companies in to quote us for a fictitious move that they were never going to do, and they priced it, and then we thought, and we just created a sliding scale based on the median of those prices. Yeah. And ironically, one of the companies quoted me a price that they'll never get even today. So prices they go up and down big time. We can talk about that in a minute, but and then I got some fee paying moves, and I couldn't believe that these people were stupid enough to employ Macpac to do the move. I just couldn't, what are they giving us money for? We've got no experience. We don't really know what we're doing. Of course, I didn't say this at quote. I came at we're a young company, we're eager.
In hindsight, were you quoting at the right level, or were you, as you probably would be, starting off going, I'm going to quote cheaper to get the business, and then realise that...
Yeah, do it cheap. Okay. And then we didn't quite know what we were doing. So I remember my first packaging order, we just moved into El Barsha South with this massive villa, and I ordered 9,000 dirhams worth of packaging. Now I don't even order 9,000 Ds worth of packaging now. I don't order. Anyway, I just thought I'll have a bit of everything. And they arrived in the truck, and they said, "Where's your warehouse?" And I said, "Just put it in the lounge." And they they put it all in the lounge. Anyway, 9,000 dirhams worth of packaging. Even now is a lot of packaging.
Yeah, right.
You can't move. And so me and Bryn looked at the lounge and went, "Oh, I'm glad Claire and the girls aren't here."
Yeah.
And the whole place stunk. Packaging smells because they spray the boxes with a chemical. And so it's like, what have we gone and done? So
but you're in there now.
Yeah,
exactly.
So. Yeah, and then we did our first few moves, and
when you say moves, it could have been an apartment, it could have been a villa, it could have been, and it's point A to point B.
Yeah,
all domestic moves.
All domestic moves. International was way out of our league, So we did these domestic moves, and we worked, and we turned up, and we slowly but surely got better and more efficient, and set up some systems, and some of them didn't work, and we had some disasters. We had some disasters, but we often finished at 10 o'clock at night. Often.
And I remember you saying you were doing the moves yourself.
Okay, so remember Martin, the ice cream man?
Yeah.
Oh, right. So Martin, this guy comes along. We didn't have a driver.
Yeah.
And he's selling ice creams for a company, a well-known ice cream company in town. And I said, oh, man, do you like your job? And he went, no, not really. And I said, are you fully visaed? And he went, well, no, that's one of the reasons I don't like it. My employer keeps mucking around with the visa. So I said, so technically you're a free agent.
Yeah.
Because I need a driver. Anyway, he gives me a couple of ice creams and I pay for them. He goes off and I give him my phone number. I don't even think I had a business card. Anyway, and anyway, the phone goes about an hour later and he said, did you mean it about offering me a job? And I said, yeah, kind of. But thinking, kind of. And he goes, oh, good, because I went and told my employer about our discussion and he's just fired me.
Oh.
And so I said, well, you can't really be fired. You didn't really have a proper job. He said, yeah, but I was being paid. Right. I said, okay. Right. He said, can you come and pick me up from my staff accommodation because he's turfed me out. So I literally went and picked him up. Picked him up. And then I gave him my family car. Yeah. And I took the truck to our house because he was too afraid to drive a truck. And I thought, well, someone's got to drive the thing. So I taught myself to drive a truck. And because someone had to drive it, right?
Sure.
And I remember going around Albasha South, and luckily in those days there's lots of roads that were just dirt roads and not many cars. And so I taught myself to drive this thing. It didn't look, once you can drive, but I did bang into the neighbour's carport and had to pay him 2,000 dirhams to fix it because I hit it with the top of the truck. Okay. My brand new truck. But yeah, anyway, so then we had a company and then we needed business.
And so as I said earlier, all these leads, because it sounds like you've always had a good flow of leads.
Yeah, well, unbelievably, but we've been booked out for 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And this is all word of mouth.
Yeah, we're yet to spend a dirham on marketing. Not one. We haven't spent anything on marketing. I got
Fantastic.
a website. It's pretty awful. But no, we don't get business through the website. We don't. Facebook has worked for us beautifully. And that's Facebook groups around the city.
Sure.
So it's completely organic. I very, very rarely comment. So if I'm on a Facebook group and a comment comes up about us, I very rarely interact.
Yeah, right.
I'd rather it just naturally, hopefully they're going to say nice things about us.
Exactly.
Because we've done a decent job and that's what happens.
And there does seem to be a lot of groups saying, there's 2 or 3 things they're constantly asking. And one of them is, I need to move.
Yeah.
And more often than this, you see Rick McIntyre is on there as a point of contact, and I'm sure you're getting phone calls from there.
Yeah,
Because this place is very Facebook driven.
Yeah, it's actually a double-edged sword because they do call me because they see me as the company and
well, that's right.
But it's the strength of the company,
yeah,
right? Because they're dealing with the owner.
So
it's not the strength; it's one of the strengths of the company. Sure. They're dealing with the owner. They can call me. My mobile number's everywhere. They can and they call me at all hours. For me to move them, and that's great. I'm not going to turn that down. I'm not arrogant enough to say that that's a pain in the neck.
No.
It's pretty tiresome at 9 o'clock on a Friday night where you get a call for someone that wants to move the next morning, but I can choose not to answer that call, right?
So from the big boys through to the small ones, how many companies are there in Dubai today doing what you're doing, movers?
Move companies?
Yeah.
200.
Really?
Yeah, it's massive. The market's completely flooded. I would say these 80 legit companies.
Yeah.
There's another 120 smaller companies who are bigger than man in a van. Yeah. They're not just a dude on the side of the road trying to drum up some business because there's thousands of those guys.
Sure.
These are actual move companies, but still some of them range from a company owning a truck, and then they will just farm it out to people, and they'll call themselves movers. To big companies, and there's some really big companies and some decent companies too. Sure. So, but there's a lot of competition.
But workforce-wise, you have your team that is with you that have been for the last 5 years. Is it true that a lot of them are mainly casual workers who?
Yes, that was one of the big surprises when I got in the market. I couldn't actually believe it, and it's still hard to believe. So I employ 22 guys, and we do 22 guys worth of work. Okay, so we work in crews of 6, 7, 8, or 9, depending on the size of the job. Once those guys are booked out on my booking sheet, I turn the work down. because we're booked out. So
Sure.
if a
A
Thursday,
finite amount of trucks.
yeah,
I'm
Yeah.
full.
yeah. So once a Thursday's booked out, I'm booked out. Whereas other move company owners would laugh at me for sure, because they would say, "Why are you turning away business?" Because they will just get guys off the street.
And get and rent a truck.
Yeah. So what they'll do is they'll get cheaper labour, casual labour, and they might have pools of guys that have done it before, or they might just be open to pretty much anyone, and they'll give them their company shirts and they'll go and do a move. Of course, it's a big gamble, and the client often won't know until it goes wrong. Then they know. But it's I just refuse to do that. So I set up conventional company.
Yeah.
As you would, if you set up a move company, you do the same. Get some guys, and then that's your finite resource, and you use those guys to do your moves for you, and you try and make money out of that, and that's it. So I could,
because the model works.
The model works, but don't get me wrong. There's not a ton of money in the industry. There really isn't.
Right.
Okay, but if I get greedy, and I start saying yes, I've had 2 calls where we sat here right now from cold callers who want me to move them. But I can't because I want to move in the next week or 2 weeks, and we're booked out, right? And every now and then we get cancellations, so gaps open up, and so those calls become very valuable to us because we can fill a gap with them. However, if I say yes to those people, where do I get my trucks? Where do I get my staff?
Yeah.
Now it seems like a lot of other companies, I'm generalising, So there's a ton of decent companies out there that wouldn't do this, but there's a lot of companies in my industry that will just fill it with dudes. Yeah. And they'll wear the company shirt, or they might put 2 of their regular guys and 3 new guys. It's just going to go wrong when they're packing someone's crystal.
Sure. Yeah, it's your household goods. It is your life.
Yeah, but it's more to anyone. You can teach anyone to pack, right? But there's more to it. There's spatial awareness. If someone's on a mover, when they move a table through a door, they hit the door frame with the table, right? They haven't got the spatial awareness. Whereas professional movers never do that because they're 3D ninja gurus. They can do it. They know exactly where they're at with the space.
You telling me about one of your team used to call them Tetrix or Tetris? Was that right? Yeah. Because he knew exactly where to put things in the truck.
Yeah, so it's a real art. Loading the truck's a real art because if you're not good at it, you leave lots of gaps everywhere, and your boxes are unsafe, and they can move, or stuff can move around, and lots of damage on a move will come during the load. Sure. Okay. Whereas you get a good loader, they're worth their weight in gold.
And they'll pack it in.
They pack it, nothing can move, and they'll use all the space, and you get the maximum amount of load inside your truck because your truck's finite. Right, you've got 17.5, 18 cubic meters inside the dry box of your truck. That's all you've got. And if you don't want to go on 2 loads and you've got 17 cubic meters, you have to pack that really well, or it's not going in. You have to go back twice, right?
So, I'm just trying to think now. Your team must just work as clockwork. They arrive, they see what they need to do, and it just happens. I'm sure there's not even really much discussion amongst themselves. They just know where things need to go.
Yeah, so they've all got different roles, and it happens naturally. No one said, right, you're doing kitchen. The boys will work in different parts of the house, and naturally, if they're good and efficient, they'll end up in the kitchen if they're good at that. Some of the guys don't like the kitchen job because 1, you're packing all the fragile stuff, but 2, you've got really close contact with the customer.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. HQ of the house is kitchen, right? On the whole. Yeah. Or in that dining area by the kitchen. And that's kind of where the house is run. That's HQ. Yeah, right? Sure. Some guys don't want that level of attention from the client. So they'll rather be upstairs doing the bedrooms. It seems an easier job. And they will take their jobs taking furniture apart, packing the toys, doing all that stuff, wrapping and packing big cabinets and carrying them downstairs. Some guys like doing the kitchen. Some guys like doing ornaments and fragile stuff and the lounge furniture. So they all have different jobs, but they don't decide on the day. They know. Exactly. So in the crew, and you can mix the crew, and the boys will still know their job because they've done it so often. So those 4 original guys, including Martin, the ice cream guy, who's now my number 1 guy, is my head supervisor, and he's absolute gold dust. They just know what they're doing, and so they don't have to discuss and work out who's going to do what. It just happens now. They've done, so 8 years, we're in our 9th year now, so 8 years of 6 days a week moving. Yeah. Do the maths, Ted. It's a lot of moves. It's a lot of moves.
So-
I'd say 2,000 moves each guy.
So there's the first thing we've got to point out here is when you price and then they come back to you, a customer comes back to you and says, well, I've got this price for half the rate. Alarm bells should be ringing for these people.
Yeah. And that happens almost every quote,
Sure.
by the way. So
Sure.
it depends. Some clients will say, look, I'm not, they'll know the score and they will say, look, I've asked for a quote from you
Yeah.
and another similar type company. So they know the pricing is going to be similar.
Yeah.
And some companies, some clients will Google movers and they get 5 random movers and I happen to be in there.
Okay.
I can guarantee I'm the most expensive out of that group.
But-
Okay, so and the reason I'm more expensive is I pay my guys well.
Yeah.
We've got a proper trade license.
Yep.
We've got proper liability insurance.
Sure.
We've got an office where our packaging is
Yeah.
proper packaging. We pay for our vehicles, and so it's all legitimate in terms of a company setup.
Right.
It costs more,
Yeah.
but what you get back from that is 6 guys in your house who have got 2,000 moves each under their
Yeah,
belt. Who know exactly what they're doing, right? They also are great singers and some of them dance. But
Exactly.
but the other company that comes in, so if I quote 3,000 and someone comes in at 1,400,
Yeah.
that company is not employing their guys. They're
Yeah,
paying
exactly.
70 dirhams a day, casual labour, right? They
Yeah.
don't own a truck. They've got a guy in a truck for 200 dirhams. The truck driver won't work, by the way. He'll sit out and sleep on the road or in his truck. He does not lift a box.
Yeah.
They probably don't know each other.
Yeah.
Right? But they look like they do because they're wearing those shirts. They might use blankets as packaging, and often blankets look. Some companies are really good and they'll wash them, and it's great. But there's a lot of companies out there that use blankets and they haven't been washed for a long time.
You're scaring me.
It's pretty
You're scaring
filthy. And and that's what you get on the cheap
Okay.
end of the scale.
Okay. And also I remember you saying that the team can work out what a move's going to be like after being in that house for about 10 minutes.
Yeah, you can. Actually, I could take it one step further. You almost know what the move's going to be like when the client opens the door. Right. So some people are terrified of moving. Yeah.
Sure.
And there's been,
Sure.
divorce,
Yeah.
death, and moving are the 3 most stressful things in your life. Of course, that's rubbish.
Yeah, yeah.
But some people see it as that, and moving just makes them unbelievably stressed.
Yeah.
And so those people, when they open the door and they say, the first thing they say is, "I haven't slept all night." Our
my
job,
goodness.
my supervisor suddenly goes into counsellor mode because it's they have to, because you have to calm the client.
I know.
Otherwise, that client can become really difficult
Yeah, sure.
because they're stressed. They're in a state of
Exactly.
stress, right? Whereas other people, they know the score, or even better, they've moved with us before. So our repeat business is great. It's huge
Good.
for us.
Yeah.
And those people we've obviously done a decent job for them before, because otherwise they wouldn't have called us, and just relaxed about the whole thing because they know it's going to go well. Don't get me wrong, we've had pretty bad days at the office, like everyone, where things have gone wrong, and I've had to turn up to the client after the move, put my hand in my pocket and say, okay, how much to fix this problem?
Yeah,
right. And we've also broken a ton of mirrors.
Sure.
And I know the guys that float glass and Elcos pretty well. Haven't broken one for touchwood. Haven't broken one for at least a year. But it's just part of the deal. It's that could happen with all the best care in the world. You just bang a mirror on the side and it goes.
Exactly.
But where the quality of the company come in is where I turn up and say,
It's the after
we've
sales.
had an accident here. Let me take the mirror away. I'll get new glass.
Sure.
As opposed to not answering the phone for
Yeah.
the 1,400 dirham company. They're not fixing that. Of course they're not. They can't fix it. Whereas sometimes we just have to take it on the chin. And that's not a good day at the office. You basically have done the move for no money at all, right? But
understood.
you have to keep your reputation.
Exactly. Because as we know, particularly in this anywhere now with social media, somebody could easily write something on Facebook or that could give you a hard time straight off. So
Mate, and
there's no comeback on that.
Yeah, and I used to lose sleep over that stuff, and it's still very uncomfortable. And if someone, look, we're lucky, yeah, because we're oversubscribed. We've got great customers. We can almost pick and choose our customers a little bit, and our customers are the vast majority are unbelievably supportive and lovely, and we're lucky. We deal with good people day in, day out. Every now and then, though, a move might go wrong, and something might be misinterpreted, or someone just has a bad day. We might break 4 glasses, and then it can spiral really quick. So if you do the 4 glasses and the mirror on the same day, then the customer suddenly starts looking for fault. They can turn. If they're in a stressed mood, they can turn immediately, and then they start finding something on a table that was actually there when we turned up, but they didn't notice it. And that's a bad day. That's where our guys have to calm the situation. I'm involved immediately. Yeah. But don't get me wrong, I've put my hand in my pocket many times and said, that's what happens.
No, understood. Now, this is a part that I'm interested in, and this could be a podcast in itself. But in the 8 years, we've seen some amazing dynamics in this town of moves, of people moving within the area.
Yeah.
So can you give us a quick overview on, like you said, ranches? People moved out of ranches. Where did they move? People moved out to Al Qudra.
Yeah.
Can you give us a quick synopsis on that?
Yeah, look, it's kind of every year there's a new location that's very popular.
Yeah.
And so look, we deal mainly with expats.
Yeah.
Springs, Meadows, Green Community, Jumeirah Park, Victory Heights, all of that. Yeah, this is where our clients live. And so, but there's been new communities. Town Square's been massive for us.
Yep.
Massive. So smaller 3-bed townhouses, right? So on the cheaper end, awesome for young families. So those young families may have been in an apartment and they have a baby and they think, no, we want to get some outdoor space. We want a barbecue, and Town Square's perfect for that, right?
Sure.
So we've done a ton of moves there. Mirror Oasis the same, and 4 years ago, Mirror. So, and when we say popular, we're like 400-500 moves into those locations. Like it's massive for a whole year. I'll have a crew in there almost every day.
But they've gone. Have they gone? As many come back, or they people? Because I mean, there was a lot of travel time that I think a lot of people didn't realise that they were getting when it comes to schools and things like that.
Yeah.
Did
Okay.
that
So
happen?
no, on the whole, no.
Right. Okay.
People like those communities.
Yeah. Sure.
They're affordable.
Sure.
You get good value for money in Mirror Oasis, Town Square. Really good value for money.
Yeah.
So where do we not move? Marina and JLT have always been quite popular.
But they must be tough to move too, as in trucks and apartments and all that kind of
painful.
stuff.
Yeah, they can be. Some of the buildings are really, really difficult.
Sure.
Some of them are a breeze. So some of them have got massive lifts, the service lifts. You can get half a 1-bed apartment into one lift.
Okay, okay.
And whereas some buildings are just unbelievably difficult. I've just had a call just before from a guy that lives in Executive Towers. Look, I'd love to move him, but it's going to be it's a really tough move. It's really tough because there's no loading bay there in the first buildings that you come to on the right.
Sure.
You have to park a truck in a car park across the road. It's suddenly high maintenance for my guys. Or the guys work to 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
No one wants that. You're not looking after your staff
So this
if
is
you take that move on.
And I guess this is experience. This is from day one of learning. 8 years, 9 years down the road, you know the buildings that you want and
Oh, mate, we'll do any move, but what you don't want your guys working late at night. It's no good.
Sure.
It's no good for the client. Client's like
exactly.
peeved because they're like, man, this move's taking forever.
Yeah.
But the boys are not sleeping during the day; they're working. But the transition between lift and truck is often a long way.
Okay.
So, and it's horrible for my staff.
Right.
They come back to the warehouse next morning. No one wants that. I want the boys to finish at 5:30 every day. Sometimes 6 o'clock. It goes to 6 o'clock, but certainly not after that. But it does work in roundabouts as well. Often we'll get a move. Martin, the ice cream man, again today on a job. He's called me at 3:30. He's done for the day. So he wins a couple of hours. So there's a bit of give and take in it for sure. But you don't want your team working late at night. You just don't. So we don't take on moves in the afternoon or any of that rubbish.
Sure.
So, but yeah, some buildings are tough. And JBR is pretty tough depending on what tower you're in. Again, no loading bays, can't get close to the buildings. You might get lucky and get close to one, but most of them it's a big transition. So yeah, apartments pay less and are often more difficult.
Absolutely.
But so But
So-
that's the way it goes. It's money. If you get an opportunity to take it, and you got an empty space in your calendar, you're not turning it down.
Absolutely. So you did 6 years. You did domestic. Then you made the move to international.
Yeah, so that was pretty huge. That was actually at the beginning of lockdown last year.
Right.
So, and we've been trying to do it for a couple of years, but we didn't have the admin infrastructure to
So-
set it up.
And actually, that brings up a very good question. During COVID, when lockdown was on, you were able to move during that period?
Yeah, we had a horrible month last March, and I thought if this carries on through mid-April, we're bankrupt.
Yeah.
And so we took the measures that lots of companies did. We had a dilemma. The dilemma was, do we let some guys go? Because we couldn't do jobs. We were working, but it really slowed down.
But didn't they change it to, what was that name they gave it?
We were essential service.
Essential service,
Yeah, we were. So logistics and transport by trucks were essential service because you have to get food into the supermarkets, right?
Sure.
And so people were booked and paid for moves, and we printed off a letter and had our trade license, got pulled over regularly, got fined a couple of times for overloading in vehicles. So
Overloading people, because you were...
yeah, look, I had 3 guys in a truck twice, 2 days in a row, got pulled over, $3,000 to pay, $3,000 day 1, $5,000 day 2, fine. And then so I went, we can't have this. And I thought 3 in a vehicle at the time was okay, but it was. They said no. Look, you're not social distancing. Fair enough.
Okay.
I can't argue that.
No.
So we went and rented extra vehicles. We got extra cars, and I still rent them to this day.
Sure.
So
So you got through COVID.
we got through COVID. Things picked up, and about end of April, we were busy, really busy again. April, May, June, July, and then busy right through. But we had a horrible couple of months.
So what were people doing then? Was it the fact that they were in apartments for all this time? They said, we've got to get out of these apartments?
Yes, that. But also, people had lost their jobs, right? Or they didn't have job security. So what happened is if a guy thinks, well, I could lose my job here.
Let's save 20 grand, 30 grand.
What should we do? Should we put our stuff in storage? Should the family go home? Should I stay and go into service department? So that created moves.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so that was, we were busy. Storage got really busy over the city. Storage is still full now to this day. But people move. Yeah, there was a whole lot of people after the initial lockdown that said, we're getting a villa now. So they moved.
Sure.
And also, there was job insecurity, job losses, and incomes were dropped, so they couldn't afford the rent that they had. Maybe they'd stretched themselves and gone to a lovely villa in green community, and then went, do you know what? We actually can't afford this anymore. So people moved.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it must have been a stressful time, all right. But then the international moves you were doing, so that's a whole new part that you had to learn.
Mate. Yeah. So that was, we just jumped in the deep end there. Yeah. So Claire and I had many discussions during lockdown about setting up for international. But there's but we don't know how to do it. I don't know the name of ports. How do you get your stuff on a ship? Who on earth's going to give you a container? And it was that starting point. Like, what? Man, okay, let's find out. So we.
So is it a matter of just a different type of license, or what do you need?
No. We needed people in the know. How do you meet the people in the know? You know, and so we got talking to a guy that had some experience.
Yeah.
We employed him as a consultant.
Good.
We sent him out on quotes. We suddenly put on Facebook. I sent an email, one email to my last 800 customers saying, hey, guess what? Macpac are doing international. We're doing global. Thinking, I actually don't even know what I'll do if someone says, yes, I want to move. Anyway, sure enough, we get a few inquiries. So I pass them on to Chris. And Chris goes out and quotes them, comes back, and basically sat Claire and I down and said, right, guys, this is how you do it. And so Chris used to run a company many years ago.
Perfect.
And so had the experience. And just and the deal was, okay, mate, we're going to give you X for every move we win here. And
So it worked fine.
No, not as smooth and easy as that. We learned how to do it. Yeah.
Okay.
So we got a broker. That's your key guy. Without a decent broker, you can't make it work. So the broker's the link person between shipping lines and you. Yeah, and they do all that paperwork and that strange different language and bill of lading and all of that stuff. That what on earth is that? Anyway, so he organised all that for us. we went and did the pack up. I had 5 guys that I employed over the last few years that had come from international move companies, and they were like, "I'll do it, boss. I can do this for you. We can global pack. It's a different type of packing, yeah, different art."
Okay.
And so I said, "Okay, you're my global crew then." And then we went out and did it. But most of our clients in the first 10, 15 containers, they were ex-Macpac clients because we hadn't told anyone else we're doing it.
Sure.
So they were like, they kind of trusted Macpac, the brand, to come and do their international. They didn't know at the time that I didn't even know Southampton had a port.
Southampton, right? Okay. Google.
Yeah, no. They literally was that, and I'll be absolutely honest. It was skin of our teeth stuff. But we thought, if we muck up here, we're just going to be honest. We're going to use our broker. We're going to use Chris's expertise. We're going to use common sense. We're going to use Google.
Yeah.
We're going to make phone calls. We're going to call the guy in Southampton and say, we're sending our container. And so it's laughable. Now it's like, oh my God.
But it worked.
Because the first clients were people that we knew.
Sure.
And so, it was a really steep learning curve. We had a couple of things happen. So one guy, a guy called Aaron, we've moved him a couple of times. So he's a fan of the company. He said, "Rick, I'm going back to the UK." I said, "Brilliant, we'll pack you up." "Yeah, you got the job." Right. Paid us X for it, and it's a lot of money. People prepay you to pay everyone else. It's a lot of money. You got to manage your money well in international moves. Otherwise, you're in big trouble. Anyway, so we do that pretty well anyway, right? So he gave us all this money, and we went and packed him up. We got the container outside his place. We packed him. It went. We said, "Hey, this is a cool thing." Talking like I knew what I was talking about. You can track the ship. I've got the ship here. You can track it, right? Check out this website. You can track the ship. Anyway, he goes, "Oh, thanks, fantastic." He gets on a plane, goes to the UK. Right. Anyway, 2 weeks later, the phone goes.
I got a bad feeling about this.
That's awful. 2 weeks later, the phone goes, and he says,
"Where's El Salvador?"
"Hey, Rick." Yeah. You know that container? Yeah. You know that I packed my mother's ashes in the container? I didn't know that. But anyway, yeah, it's on its way to you. "Well, no, it's not. It's just rounding like Sri Lanka at the moment on the way, and we're in the UK. Is it going across the Pacific to us? Like, it wouldn't go that way, would it, Rick?" And we were like, "Of course, I don't know how to answer this." And so I'm like, "Do you know what? Just give me a couple of minutes. Just give me a." And he said, "Because literally his mother's ashes."
So that was right. Okay.
And it's like she seems to be going on a bit of a round the world trip. And it's like, so I got off the phone, and it was panic stations. Like, what? So we went on the website. Sure enough, he's tracked it. We tracked it. The ship it's going across the around Sri Lanka, and it's on its way to maybe Singapore. I don't know. Anyway, but it's not going on the way to the UK, I can tell you that. So anyway, I called someone that owns a move company, a desperate call. "Hey, this is what's happened." And she went, she said, "Is it going on Hapag Lloyd?" I went, "Yeah, it is." She went, "Yeah. Rick, it went to India, to a place called Mundra. That's where all containers go from here." Yeah. But now it's gone to Singapore.
Is that really what happened?
Yeah. Anyway, so she said, "No, Rick, the ship has gone to Singapore. The container is on another ship now, and it will go to UK." So basically, steep learning curve moment, right? Containers go to Mundra on the west coast of India, massive port, and then the containers get transshipped to an east sailing vessel or a west sailing. That's where they get split. They don't get split in Dubai.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway,
hub and spoke.
Some do. Yeah. Right. Some will go direct show. Just go. But most go to Mundra, and they get put on that port because that's going east, or that port because that's going west, right? Anyway, so so we track the container, not the ship. There's a little There's a piece of schooling for you.
But happy ending to the story. Ashes is now in Southampton.
So Ashes got to the UK. So when we finally found his container, it was in the Suez Canal. So it's on its way. Screenshot it.
Good.
Send it to him. We know what we're doing.
Good.
But it could have gone to Singapore. Yeah, we didn't know. It was just one of those little now we know that moments. And there's been lots of those moments.
But so you're learning now, 9 years down.
Yeah.
Now, what we always love to do is, you love Dubai, obviously. You're still here. What's the game plan? You think you'll stay here for longer?
Look, yeah. So look, I've mentioned Jose quite a few times.
Yeah.
Jose is central to our plans. So another of the reasons of, we had no money and I was losing love of teaching and that's what got me into setting my own company. But there's another factor, and the other factor is Josie. So there is a possible work opportunity for Jose at Macpac, and it's something that we are serious about. She's 15 years old now. We don't know how much schooling she's got left.
Yep.
If you ask Jose, she'll tell you she's finishing like now.
Right, okay.
But hopefully another 2 or 3 years, and then there's an opportunity to come and work in the company. We don't know what doing. Chief chocolate counter would be a perfect job for Jose at the moment. But we don't know. But there's a position there for us somewhere.
Yeah.
There's also we want to. This is one of the reasons we love this town, though. It's a land of opportunity. We want to create something for kids with special needs in Dubai.
Okay, great.
And we can do it.
Yeah,
and we've got the ability
sure.
to do it. So we've seen some other companies do that sort of thing. So Radisson Blue's a great example where they've got couple young gentlemen that we know who are working and they're on salary. These guys are paid. We want to do that.
And Zabil House, who we know well.
Yeah, of course. So
Mohammed, shout out to Mohammed on the door.
So we see these companies as real role models, and we'd like Macpac to walk into that position as well. There's no reason why we can't do something pretty neat on that front for young people, and we're not talking about lip service here and a bit of work experience. We're talking about getting them on salary and paying them. There's no, as I said before, you can teach anyone to pack a box. Well, we can broaden our or open the door to some kids with special needs.
Absolutely.
I say kids, but you know what I mean, a young
adult. I know what you mean.
And
this town has changed in the time that we've had Josie and Ruby.
Massive.
I remember when it started, it was a whole different kettle of fish. I mean, to have a child on a billboard in Shakeside Road with autism 2 years ago was a huge step. Beforehand, it wasn't even talked about.
Yeah, it's massive, and the whole agenda, the national agenda, and
people with
determination. We think it's really neat.
Yeah, exactly.
And look, there's a long way to go, but there's a long way to go everywhere. It's here you still have to pay for specialist services. You have to put your hand in your pocket. The flip side is going to the UK and getting your speech therapist given to you, but you have no control over quality.
Sure.
So do you know what I mean? Those state funded is great. It's brilliant, but it mightn't work for you either.
Right.
Whereas we think this town really works for us and Josie. It's safe, it's friendly, it's welcoming, it's accommodating. Josie, it feels like Josie's part of the national agenda.
Sure. And she was an Olympic athlete, I believe.
She's got a silver medal in gymnastics. Yeah. One of the greatest weeks
Special
of our
Olympics.
life.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, bless her. Yeah, we're so proud of her. But there is something that we want to do with the company in the next year or so. Great. The other thing that's going to help with that, Claire's actually just come on board. She's just left her job after 28 years in teaching. She's now working full-time for Macpac.
When did she start?
Today.
Oh, day one.
Yeah. She didn't turn up.
Okay. So
just that hasn't gone unnoticed, Claire.
But okay, disciplinary meeting tonight.
Well, there's going to be an HR meeting for sure. But look, seriously, Claire offers so much, and in terms of the admin, and we do the global stuff, and it's massively admin heavy. Claire will eat that for breakfast.
Absolutely.
It also gives another head in terms of how we introduce the special needs thing that we want to do. And I don't quite know how it's going to work yet, but we're just going to jump in and do it and see what it works.
Which is the best
There's
way.
no reason why we can't accommodate a person of determination in each of our crews.
Wow.
So we've got a young man at the moment. It's worked for me for 3 years. Very different needs, but needs. He's completely deaf.
Okay.
And he turned up. He's got quite a story. Turned up in Dubai on a job. Went into his job first day, flew from the Philippines, and they pushed him out the door and said, "You're deaf, you can't work for us."
Really?
Which is horrific, right? And so let's not dwell on that, but it's disgusting.
Yeah.
And I'll happily say that to anyone.
Yeah.
So Claire, he ended up on a Facebook page. Maybe his wife's employer, I believe, took a photo and said, or told the story. Claire saw that on a Facebook page and said, you got to employ this guy. So we got him into our house. We interviewed him. It's a hell of an interview. It was a bit of Macathon, a whole lot of role play, and some writing some stuff down, and we gave him a trial.
Brilliant.
And so we trial everyone at Macpac. So if you pass interview, you go and work for one day with the boys, and then the boys have to be unanimous. So the crew is to say, yeah, we like this guy and he can fit in, because it's such a team game, right?
Sure.
So if they feel you can't fit in a team, you don't get the job.
And what's the strike rate?
Look, there's been a couple of guys that didn't get the thumbs up.
Wow.
And a couple of guys, I interviewed a guy and I thought he's the best thing I've interviewed for the last couple of years. And he went and worked for one day, and several of my boys said no. And so I have to respect that. And,
of course you do.
And for their own reasons, they said this guy's not going to fit in. And so, okay, no problem. He obviously didn't work, and for or didn't work for the guys. They couldn't see him fitting in, so I didn't go. Anyway, Rolando, my boy, he turned up for a trial day, unanimous thumbs up. Still working with us today. He's in his third year now,
Fantastic.
and he is absolutely magic. Interesting enough, the boys all communicate with him. A bit of Macathon, but not really. But mostly a made-up Macpac sign language. No, it's crazy.
That's great.
He can lip read, which helps. Not in Tagalog.
Yeah.
He lip reads in English. It's pretty cool. So he's having jokes with the boys all the time. They're having a laugh, and he's very
part of the team.
Oh mate,
and you can see
valuable.
You can see it as a team.
And don't get me wrong, in terms of working for a move company, his needs aren't massive. He can just get on with it. But it's more about attitudes.
Yeah.
And that I don't know. I don't even know what the company was that turned him away. But I'd love to have 5 minutes with the manager and who'd said go away and say, what were you thinking? He's one of our best employees. This guy's got so much to give.
It's obvious the culture within the company, and he can see it coming through. Of course, he was going to work. I could have told you he was going to work before it even started.
Yeah.
So, no, that's brilliant to hear, Rick, and we certainly looking forward to hearing more. And thank you for coming on the captain's table today,
mate. It's been a pleasure. So I haven't talked about my company for a while, because you don't, do you? You just get on with it.
No, well,
so we have set up something pretty cool.
Well, we're going to be following this, so thank you very much.
Cheers, man.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that great interview with Rick. And remember, the point is, if it's cheap, smell a rat. That's what I learned from this. Anyway, if you like this episode and you like our episodes, please subscribe to us. We'd love to hear your comments. It's all on YouTube. So look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you. From the captain.
I said, what?